just saying we should not have women in combat roles. Now, I presume you recall making all these statements?
Senator, I'm not familiar with the article you're pointing to in 2013, but it underscores my argument completely, because in that 2013 argument, I was talking about standards.
No,
standards are what it's always been about,
Let's not
Senator.
have this same fight again.
Always been about Senate
I've quoted
standards.
you directly. We've got the video. We're happy to show it. But I want to be clear here. For 12 years, you were quite open about your views, and your views were consistently the same. Women are inferior soldiers, sailors, Marines, airmen, and guardians. And in case anyone missed the point, and these are your words from 10 weeks ago, women absolutely straight up should not be permitted to serve in combat. And I notice on each of these quotes, those are said without qualification. It's not by how much you can lift or how fast you can run. They don't belong in combat, period. Or your words, straight up.
What began as a routine confirmation hearing quickly turned into one of the most heated exchanges on Capitol Hill. Senator Elizabeth Warren pressed Defense Secretary nominee Pete Hegseth over past comments regarding women serving in combat roles in the U.S. military. Warren cited a series of statements from previous years, arguing that Hegseth had consistently suggested women should not serve in combat positions. She pointed to interviews and podcast comments where he discussed concerns about combat integration, questioning whether his views had suddenly shifted after his nomination. But Hegseth pushed back strongly. Instead of accepting Warren's framing, he argued that his position had always centered on military standards and combat readiness, not gender. According to Hegseth, the core issue is whether combat standards remain consistent and whether military effectiveness remains the top priority. The moment quickly escalated as Warren pressed him about what she described as a sudden conversion in his views just weeks before the hearing. She suggested the change coincided with his nomination, implying political convenience. Hegseth rejected that premise outright, reiterating that his focus has always been on lethality, meritocracy, and combat performance. In his view, the debate over women in combat should revolve around standards and capability, not ideology or political messaging. As the exchange unfolded, it became clear that this hearing was about far more than a single policy question. It reflected a deeper divide in Washington over how the military should balance equality, standards, and battlefield readiness.
And then, on November 9th, 2024, just 32 days after your last public comment saying that women absolutely should not be in combat, you declared that, quote, some of our greatest warriors are women, and you support having them serve in combat. Now, that is a very, very big about face in a very, very short period of time. So help me understand, Mr. Hegseth, what extraordinary event happened in that 32-day period that made you change the core values you had expressed for the preceding 12 years?
Senator, again, I very much appreciate you bringing up my comments from 2013, because for me, this issue has always been about standards. And unfortunately, because of some of the people that have been in political power for the last 4 years, priorities other than standards, lethality, and meritocracy have driven decision-making.
I'm quoting you from the podcast. Women shouldn't be in combat at all. Where is the reference to standards? That they should be there if they can carry, if they can run? I don't see that at all, Mr. Hegseth. What I see is that there's a 32-day period in which you suddenly have another description about your views of women in the military. And I just want to know, what changed in the 32 days that the song you sang is not the song you come in here today to sing?
Senator, the concerns I have and the concerns that many have had, especially in ground combat units, is that in pursuit of certain percentages or quotas, standards have been changed. And that makes the combat more difficult for everybody involved. Let me make a suggestion about what happened in that 32 days. You got a nomination from President Trump. Now, I've heard of deathbed conversions,
but this is the first time I've heard of a nomination conversion. And I hope you understand that many women serving in the military right now might think that if you can convert so rapidly your long-held and aggressively pursued views in just 32 days, that 32 days after you get confirmed, maybe you'll just reverse those views and go back to the old guy who said straight up, women do not belong in combat. Now, Mr. Hegseth, you have written that after they retire, generals should be banned from working for the defense industry for 10 years. You and I agree on the corrosive effects of the revolving door between the Pentagon and defense contractors. It's something I would have liked to talk to you about if you'd come and been willing to visit with me. But the question I have for you on this is, will you put your money where your mouth is and agree that when you leave this job, you will not work for the defense industry for 10 years?
Senator, it's not even a question I've thought about because it's not
about
one
it right now.
It's not one. My motivation for this job
I understand
has never
that.
been
I just
about
need
what
a
could
yes or no
conceivably
here.
come next.
Time is short. I just need a yes or no.
I would consult with the president about what the policy should be
In
at the Defense
other
Department.
words, you're quite sure that every general who serves should not go directly into the defense industry for 10 years. But you're not willing to make that same pledge?
I'm not a general, Senator.
You'll be the one, let us just be clear, in charge of the generals. So you're saying sauce for the goose, but certainly not sauce for the gander?
I would want to see what the policy of the president
Oh, I'll
is.
bet you would.
Thank you.
The debate highlighted a fundamental question that has been discussed in military policy circles for more than a decade. Should combat roles be evaluated purely by uniform physical and operational standards, or should broader diversity goals play a role in shaping military policy? Supporters of combat integration argue that women who meet the same rigorous standards as men should be able to serve in any role. The U.S. military formally opened all combat positions to women in 2015 after extensive review by the Department of Defense. Critics, however, have raised concerns about whether standards could be modified over time to meet recruitment or diversity targets, something Hegseth referenced repeatedly during the hearing. During the exchange, Hegseth emphasized that his priority would be maintaining consistent standards across the force, particularly in ground combat units where physical demands can be extreme. Warren countered by highlighting past statements that appeared to suggest women categorically should not serve in combat roles, arguing that such views could undermine confidence among service members currently serving in those positions. The conversation then shifted to another issue Warren has frequently raised, the relationship between military leadership and the defense industry. She pressed Hegseth on whether he would support stricter restrictions preventing senior military officials from joining defense contractors after leaving government service, a topic tied to broader concerns about the so-called revolving door between the Pentagon and private industry. Hegseth responded cautiously, stating that any such policy decisions would ultimately need to align with broader administration policies and existing ethics regulations. By that point in the hearing, the exchange had moved well beyond a single policy question. It had become a broader confrontation over military culture, political influence, and the direction of defense policy in the United States. In the end, the exchange between Senator Elizabeth Warren and Pete Hegseth underscored just how contentious the debate over military standards and combat roles has become. For Warren and others who share her concerns, the priority is ensuring that women serving in the armed forces are respected and fully integrated into every level of military service. For Hegseth and his supporters, the emphasis remains on maintaining combat effectiveness and consistent performance standards, regardless of political pressure or public debate. What this hearing ultimately revealed is that the conversation about the future of the U.S. military is far from settled. Questions about readiness, standards, diversity, and leadership will continue shaping defense policy for years to come, particularly as global security challenges place increasing demands on the armed forces. Moments like this Senate hearing offer a rare glimpse into how those debates unfold behind the scenes in Washington. And regardless of where people stand on the issue, one thing is certain: decisions made in hearings like this have real consequences for the men and women who serve in uniform. If you want more in-depth breakdowns of major moments from congressional hearings and political debates, make sure you like this video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications so you don't miss the next analysis. More coverage from Congress Journalist is coming soon.